Good evening. I'm Tim Ryan. I'm the publisher and CEO of the Baltimore Sun Media Group, and it's my pleasure to welcome all of you to our inaugural Baltimore Sun's Marylander of the Year event this evening. Between 1987 and 2002, the Sun's editorial board honored a wide variety of local civic and cultural leaders with the title Marylander of the Year. Over the years, honorees included such diverse public figures as James Rouse, Cal Ripken Jr., Peter Angelos. And it's great to have you here with us this evening, Mr. Angelos. B. Gaddy and John Waters. This year, as we brought the tradition back to life, we decided it would be nice to hold a community event to honor our award winner. We're proud to partner with the Greater Baltimore Committee for this evening's event. And at this time, I'd like to introduce the President and CEO of the GBC, Don Fry, to say a few words.
Tim, thank you very much. Congratulations to the Baltimore Sun for recognizing Buck Showalter and the Orioles for a terrific run last year that energized sports fans throughout the region and the state, and for making Camden Yards an electric place to be in 2012. The GBC has had a long history and role in professional sports development in Baltimore, and particularly the support of the Orioles. Many in the room may not be aware of this, but our first chairman of the Greater Baltimore Committee, Clarence Miles, teamed with Baltimore Mayor Thomas D'Alessandro and won the bid to bring the St. Louis Browns baseball franchise to Baltimore in 1954. The Greater Baltimore Committee was created the next year, 1955. In 1979, the GBC, Mayor Schaefer, and the Orioles created a volunteer sales force of business professionals known as designated hitters, which promoted ticket sales, and that still exists today. In 1980, the GBC began the annual Rite of Spring for us, the Lunch with the Orioles, to show Baltimore's business support for the team. That event is still the most popular event that the GBC holds. We'll be holding that again on April 15th of this year. And then in 1987, the GBC led business efforts to win legislative approval for the construction of Oriole Park at Camden Yards, still without a doubt the premier ballpark in all of baseball. Last fall, Buck Showalter and the Oriole players emphatically demonstrated the immeasurable importance of the Orioles to this region and the state in lifting community spirit in a way that we've never really seen before, and reinforcing the tradition and brand of the Oriole way. Anybody in the business community who's ever had the privilege of working with the Orioles, and I'm pleased to say that I'm one of those, knows that Buck Showalter's field leadership and his extraordinary ability to place his players in situations where they succeed is backed also by a tremendous organization, Mr. Angelos and the Angelos family. So it's our pleasure on behalf of the business community to honor Buck Showalter as the Baltimore Sun's Marylander of the Year, and also to thank the Baltimore Sun for bringing back this award, which we think is a tremendous asset for the city of Baltimore and our region. Tim, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Don. So if you remember, last November, we solicited nominations from our readers looking to determine who had the most significant impact on shaping the state of Maryland in 2012. And in December, our editorial board made the announcement that Buck Showalter is the 2012 Marylander of the Year. As everyone here certainly knows, last year Buck managed the Orioles to their first postseason appearance since 1997. Let me quote briefly from the Sun editorial announcing the award. Two statistics stand out. The 2012 Orioles won 16 extra inning games in a row, and they had the best record in one-run games in the history of Major League Baseball. That's not simple luck. That's a team that believes in itself and knows it can win. The Orioles simply refused to give up. That attitude came from one place, Buck Showalter. As Don said, under Buck's management, the team and its fan base have been re-energized. Baseball fans across the state of Maryland have embraced Buck and made him one of our own. So it is my great honor to present the Baltimore Sun's Marylander of the Year Award for 2012 to Orioles manager Buck Showalter.
I was a DH, that's why I'm setting it down so I don't have to make any chance about dropping it. That's pretty cool, isn't it, Angela? First of all, I'd like to say on behalf of the players and the organization, this is a reflection on so many people in our organization that care so much about the city of Baltimore and the Baltimore Orioles being good consistently. So on behalf of everybody, it's such a reflection on the job that our players did. And I got to tell you, they, to a man, just about came by and talked about this today. It means a lot to them because they know it was a reflection on what they chose to be about. Obviously, I'm not real comfortable in this setting. If everybody had a uniform on and a little more sweaty, I'd feel a bit better. And I could be a little more colorful, which I won't be today. But, you know, there's the Orioles are a very precious commodity to the state of Maryland and to the city of Baltimore. And we don't apologize for taking that very seriously and choosing to surround ourselves with people who feel the same way. Not only players, but front office, and you know the job that Dan Duquette did last year and his sense of urgency. Finally, you know, it was a shared emotion. You know, we're sitting in Seattle and we're playing a night game on a Saturday, and we play 15 or 16 innings, and we have a day game the next day. I can't tell you how many situations say, well, just get through tomorrow and we get back, we'll see where we are with the pitching. Well, that counts as wins and losses. So that's the sense of urgency, and somehow we got a player from Norfolk, Virginia to Seattle, Washington time to have enough arms to keep people healthy. And that's just a small example. So Dan, I appreciate your input and all the things you did to help make things work. You know, I was looking over some of the history there. Obviously, Mr. Angelos in 1998, I believe Cal in 1991. That's a long time. And I'm hoping that we can do some things this year that continue to make a possibility that you might look our way again. You know, I made a mistake in the off season. I went to a very important fundraiser in Annapolis during the off season, and someone said something about the award. First of all, I can't tell you, I'm extremely proud. I'm honored, and I'm not going to be able to express it properly, but I said something like, well, there must not have been very much competition, and two of the competitors were in the audience. So I want to say right now to Ben Jealous, Maggie McIntosh, Martin O'Malley, and Michael Phelps, congratulations for the nomination. And I will not open my big mouth again. You know, I got uncomfortable with, you know, we did a lot of things celebrating last year, but anybody that was in our clubhouse in Yankee Stadium after Game 5 thought that was a team that was patting themselves on the back and said, well, it was a nice run, these guys were sincerely frustrated with getting a chance to roll the dice in October, which is really all it is, and not being able to take the next step. And walking through our locker room in Sarasota, the facility, which is another great thing that Mr. Angelos and his family have helped us to eliminate excuses down there. The facility, there's just a quiet feeling that they're relevant again. And they are, you know, they don't have the Yankees kind of looking down their nose at them. It's a very I just see them walking around with a certain pride, and it's pretty cool. You know, as I've gotten older, I've learned to kind of step back and take in a moment and not want to be a part of the moment. I always try to get a real good seat when I know something cool is getting ready to happen on the field because I want to watch it. And my memory's not as good as it used to be at 56, so I have to take some photographs in my mind. But, you know, we spent a lot of time last year and a lot of money honoring our past. You know, when I first got to Baltimore, there were a lot of pictures of some players that really hadn't proven themselves to be worthy of being an Oriole, young players on the wall, and there were a lot of guys that had. And we've embraced the past with a lot of the things that, with the statues we unveiled last year. But I told our players in our first meeting this year that these are the good old days. I want these to be the good old days, where people look back and they talk about Nick Markakis and Matt Wieters, and they talk about Wei-Yin Chen, they talk about Jim Johnson, they talk about J.J. Hardy and Manny Machado. You know, it's time for you guys to take your next step. And just want you to know your support, and I know how much the Orioles mean to you. And I know trust me, how much they mean to me. You know, a very short time, I kind of like when I get something that a lot of people don't get. And I got Baltimore a long time ago. I remember coming here and going, pretty cool place. When people ask what you like about it, I like the sincerity. I like the lack of real meanness. There's a sincerity about just wanting the team to be something they can be proud of. It's not asking too much. I really don't think it's asking too much. So when I tell the players, when you're in Seattle and you're thinking about giving in at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning back in Baltimore, there's somebody sitting in front of that TV living and dying with everything you're doing. And if you can't wear that on your sleeve and be a part of that, you're probably going to need to play someplace else, because that's what we want to be about. And that's the only promise I'll make to you, that if we're going to surround ourselves with people that reflect on the Orioles well. There's a certain covenant that we ask them to live up to, and I don't think that's asking too much. I get emotional talking about it. I'm an old fuddy-duddy. This is really cool. This is really cool. And that's about it. I got to get back to Sarasota where I can get this leather skin back. I'm just now feeling my skin. Pretty hot down there. I wish I'd come down. We got a great facility, but we'll be back soon, and we're going to need you again. You know, last year I can't tell you what the city and the state meant to us the last month of the season. And I can remember, I'll give you one last moment, I'll get out of your way. We're in the locker room, first game of the playoffs against the Yankees. And it's raining, and there's a rain delay. And if you could sit in there and see our people, how much they're agonizing over starting at the right time, make sure it's comfortable for the fans, making sure. And all our players were talking about, instead of when we're going to play, what we're going to do, they said, man, this is terrible for the fans. They're sitting underneath there. It's about 45, 50 degrees. It's raining. And I remember one of the players who hadn't been with the Orioles a long time, he said, do you think everybody will stay around? And Jim Johnson said, hell yes. So thank you for everything you meant to us, and for the players and the organization, and it's just a reminder to all of us what the Orioles mean to the state of Maryland and to Baltimore, and we will never take that lightly. God bless you.
All right, we're going to watch a short video from the Orioles, and then Buck is going to join Peter on stage for our Q&A session.
I'm gonna go this way.
Good evening, everybody. Before we start, a little housekeeping. A thank you to everybody who turned in a card with a question on it. We'll be getting the questions relayed to us on this iPad because I'm very high tech. And if you haven't had a chance to put a question in, just raise your hand. Someone will bring you a card if you don't have one, and they will take your question and put it in the queue. One other thing, I want to blow up a myth here. There's this myth that Buck Showalter is like the world's greatest micromanager. And I got to tell you something. While Buck was preparing my opening statements this afternoon, he told me that I could ask any question that I want. One other thing, tomorrow is Mr. Showalter and his lovely wife Angela's 30th anniversary.
A lot cheaper than what Peter, I looked up what, I made a mistake. You look up what each year supposedly is supposed to be. I know you do this a lot, right?
Absolutely.
So I was really hoping that 30 was something like wood or cedar or something like that. But Angela, it's crystal.
Actually, and he did me a big favor because my 30th is coming up next year. It is pearls, and that's why Angela is wearing that giant, beautiful pearl necklace tonight. So congratulations. So Buck, let's start this off with a general question from our desk of experts back here. How's Baltimore's baseball culture different than the other cities you've been in?
Peter, I don't know, people confuse it. Everybody wants to say their city's blue collar, but what is blue collar? I think why there's such a connection is that something that Peter and I talked about a lot when he first brought me here. Like who are we? Who are we? We don't want to confuse our fans. I just think that our ball club fit our city so well, and will continue to, because I think we know who we are, and we think. I think it really reflected the sincerity. There's not a lot of bells and whistles, and I call it foo-foo and Sports Center booyah. It's like, show me, I don't want to hear about the labor, show me the baby. That type of thing. So, when I first came here, the one thing I didn't want, was that bad?
That was good.
Okay.
If they laugh, it's good.
Okay. But, the problem is that there's been so much lip service. Nobody wants to hear us talk about it. And in the players, I think we had a group that had gotten their nose bloodied together, and also a group of fans that had gotten their nose bloodied together. And the old statement of, how long are you going to sit there and bleed? So the city, the culture was, I kept telling them, they're waiting to embrace you, but you've got to give them something to embrace you, because you got to earn their trust. And that's an ongoing thing. We don't take that for granted, any part of the organization, that what's going on in Sarasota right now is about keeping that trust. We don't want to step back. You get a taste of it, you want it to be something that's something the city reflects on the city. And there's, if you don't get Baltimore, I kind of like I said, I like when I get something some other people don't get. When somebody from the outside says something about Baltimore, I get real protective, but then I go, you know what? If they don't get it, I don't even want them to know. Really. Just stay wherever you are. And don't come in here with that attitude, because you're going to mess it up.
Buck, when I was outside and during the cocktail party outside, Maggie came up to me and said, I put the first question in, so you better ask my question first. So this is for Maggie. Maggie, you out there somewhere? Oh, there she is.
Yes.
Maggie with the wonderful accent wants to know, how did a Nathaniel William get the nickname Buck?
What's the next question, Peter? Well, first of all, if you're William Nathaniel III, you're going to have a nickname. And it's just one that a manager gave me, an A-ball. Okay. No, it's just one that I ended up with, Peter. And I guess if I can talk about labor, I can talk about how I got it.
Hey, it could have been schmuck.
Yeah. Well, there's two different stories. Basically, just said I seemed to always be in a state of undress. Either when he got there, I was already there, and when he left, I was still there. So, just something to do with being a buck. Close enough, right? Close enough.
Mike S. from Ellicott City asks, one of the best stories of 2012 was Miguel Gonzalez, a guy that went from the Mexican League to dominating the New York Yankees in the Yankee Stadium during the ALDS. What insight can you give us into Miguel's makeup, and what are your expectations of him in 2013?
You know what hit me yesterday, Peter, watching him pitch against the Phillies? That was yesterday, yes. He's not taking anything for granted. When you come through the roads that Miguel's come through to get where he's at, you know, he's got a baby on the way, his wife, just a good family. And I tell you one thing we have the best group of wives I've ever had in baseball. And this is a long time. We have a good group of wives. And I'm not just saying that because, you know, we go on some trips during the course of the year, especially in the playoffs. I mean, that group, Angela will tell you, you didn't want to mess with that group in Yankee Stadium. I tell you, there come those Yankee fans chirping. So I'm getting back to Miguel. But, yeah, a Miggy story. You know, Fred Farrar saw him in the Mexican League, signed him, and it's another tribute to some of the things that Dan has going on for us. And this guy was in Double-A. Yesterday was the first time I ever saw him pitch in spring training. I saw him last year. So you never overlook orchids while searching for roses, but at the same time, you know, I was telling Miggy yesterday, I said, you a little nervous? He says, yes, it's my first spring training game ever. And, but I remember he was on Double-A field, and there was some talk down there about whether or not he was going to make a club. And trust me, Dan stepped in on that and said, boys, this guy's going to make a club, okay? And he ended up making our club. So I think there's such a morale through guys like Miggy and our organization that you're going to get an opportunity. You know, you're going to have to do it, but I tell you, we look at things that have to happen for us to get to the next level and get back where we were and get another opportunity. Miguel's a real deal. I mean, I saw enough of it, but he's got nothing to lose the way he looks at it. So when he goes in the Yankee Stadium and people say, how can he be so cool? Miggy's letting it fly. He's playing with house money the way he looks at it. And I kind of chuckle when people say, you know, this young Latin player, Stroke or Miguel, how can you put him in this pressure situation? If you've been to the Caribbean World Series and to the Mexican League playoffs in the off season, you think this is pressure here? A lot of pressure over there pitching. You know, they're pitching for, if they win, they don't have to take military service. That's a lot of pressure, Peter, especially in Korea. So Miggy's a good people, somebody you can trust and is not going to embarrass you off the field. He's a good teammate, too. You
know, it's interesting you talked about him not taking anything for granted. Early this season, I went to do a story on Jason Hamill, and he looked at me. I was talking about, I don't remember exactly what I was talking about, but was projecting into the season, and he looked at me and said, I haven't made this team yet. Jason Hamill, who looks like the ace to me.
Well, that's the thing about it. There's nobody going, oh, I'm going to start the first game, aren't I? You know, we talked last year, our number one starter is the guy that's pitching that night. And we think we can match up with people. We just want to be, you know, stay in the ball game, keep us in the ball game, give us a chance to play a close game. You know, if we were so good last year, we wouldn't have played all those extra inning games, Peter. Our goal this year is, instead of winning by 1 run, is win by 2, maybe 3. That would be nice on the manager, I can tell you that. My wife went to bed and she admitted, I went to bed about 1 o'clock or whatever it was, and she said, I woke up to the bathroom, came back, was going to flip on the news, see what it was. She said, good God, y'all were still playing. So I know there's been some sleepless nights, but I apologize.
Got a question from Mike from Severn. He says, congratulations, Buck, on the award and on your Orioles success so far. How are Brian Roberts and Nick Markakis doing with their injuries and rehabilitation? And do you see both of them being in the opening day starting lineup?
You know, Nicky had what we call, back where I grew up, a crick in the neck, you know. First press conference I had in New York, they said, Buck, how you feeling? I said, I got a little crick in my neck and I'm a little stove up. They had no idea what I was talking about.
That's what they call, isn't that what they call it at the Mississippi State Medical School?
Yeah. Well, they don't have medical school at Mississippi State. They have an ag department, and a lot of the great groundskeepers come from Mississippi State, Peter. No, Nicky's doing well. In fact, I just talked to him on the way over here, just checking on him. He said it feels a lot better. And B-Rob, knock on wood, he is having a lot of fun. That's Brady's phone. More than likely. No, nice going.
It's the president.
Yeah. Ooh. But they're doing well. Physically, knock on wood, we're in good shape. T-Garden talked about him today. He's probably a couple days away from rejoining us. And I'm not pulling for the United States to play a lot of games in the WBC. I told Jonesy, I said, I know you want to do this, but do not come back any worse than we leave you.
Brett from Pasadena asked, this would probably be a question better presented to Doug Delantis. How is the team going to honor Earl Weaver during the regular season?
I hope by the way we play, Peter. Okay? More than anything. And
I know you got the patch.
well, the patch we got on, a lot of teams wait until the season starts for that. We got it down there for spring training. And we've got the number on the field, and I can't tell you what it meant to Earl last year, and he doesn't know it, but to me, it took me a long time to call him Earl. It was Mr. Weaver, and he finally, in his own colorful way, told me he didn't like that, made him feel old. But he, if you could have seen him speaking to our farm system, coaches and managers, and our major league staff, you know, after he got that second cup of coffee in, Peter, it was, you saw Earl at his best. And some poor guy in the back, I asked the first question about a cutoff and relay or something, some poor guy in the back, I'll never forget, asked him what he perceived as a dumb question. Oh man, it was beautiful. Getting in the cart and riding around with me to the drills, and he was saying, you know, Showalter, you ain't reinventing anything. We were doing this on the little field in Miami 20, 30 years ago. And it was, you know, he was coming, but I think more than anything, he loved what went on with the club last year. You could see it. And this guy came to every one of the statue unveilings. It meant so much to him to be there with those guys. And I tell you what, he was, we're going to miss him. But the honoring part of it will go on all year long in some form or fashion. From my perspective, hopefully by the way we play. Doug, am I missing something? I know there's a lot of things that we have in store that I know we're going to, yeah. I know there's going to be a special day, but you know, all through the year we're going to have some type of things that reflect on Earl.
We had a very nice first game of the spring season, the exhibition season, a very nice tribute to Earl. Kind of a preview, I would think. Buck, David Cox of Baltimore. Here's a nuts and bolts baseball question.
Oh, you notice I didn't say anything about Roberts being in the lineup. Of course he is. I hope he is. So we're going to break it here. I hope he is, but he's got some competition. Brian knows it. He's not asking for anything. He knows, but he's going to bring it. I got a good feeling about Brian.
David Cox of Baltimore asks, isn't participation in the Rule 5 draft a risky waste of a roster spot, especially if you select a pitcher?
Yep. Well, can you say Ryan Flaherty? You know, you got to take some risks along the way, and Ryan Flaherty started for our club in the playoffs last year against the Yankees. Hit a big home run. We're going to take a look at him. It's worth taking a look. T.J. McFarland pitched a little better last time out. I think he's going to get better each time out. Guys that won 14, 15 games in AAA aren't a dime a dozen. And it's kind of where Steve Johnson, Zach Clark all kind of got on the map. Very similar guys. And like Dan says all the time, we're not going to leave any stone unturned. We got a long WBC spring training. So you're crazy not to take advantage of spending $50,000, I think it is, to take a look at a guy that might impact your team. So taking a pitcher in the American League East is tough because you can't hide them. They're going to have to pitch. But it's not like we just picked him out of the sky and brought him into camp. There's been a lot of people looking at this guy, and he's going to get a good look. I like a lot of things about him, especially being left-handed.
Jerry Sage of Edgemere asks, will you continue to platoon at leadoff, or do you think you'll go into the season with the same leadoff batter projected?
You know, Peter, what I look at is that I'm just fortunate. We have 3 or 4 good candidates. You know, and I wouldn't forget about Lexi Castilla. You know, between Brian and Nate McLeod and Nikki, we've got some people that are capable of doing it. It's our what if. You know, what if happens if somebody goes down? It's not really a topic that keeps me up at night because we have people who are capable of doing a good job. And I think batting first is overrated, you know, because you're only assured of it happening one time a game. You know, and one of the most important spots in the American League East lineups is the 9-hole where you can turn the lineup around, and people miss that. So it's not a big deal to our players. It's not a big deal to me, but I understand that it's, you know, it's like the cleanup guy or the closer. You know, it's whoever's doing it that night, and that's kind of the mentality of our club.
Buck, Mike T. from
Who
Baltimore.
would you lead off?
Who would I lead off?
Yeah.
Brian, if he's healthy.
Okay. I like that.
You can just leave the card outside my door. I'll fill it out for you. Mike T. from Baltimore asks, and this is a question I'm sure a lot of people who are Oriole fans are really thinking about a lot. How likely are we to see Dylan Bundy or Kevin Gausman in the starting rotation at some point in 2013?
You know, that's up to them as much as it is to the other people. You know, one of our strengths is the depth of our pitching. I can tell you one thing, that the Norfolk and Bowie Club, pitching-wise, is going to have some people that you're going to want to scramble and look at the box scores. You know, we get the game reports every night, and I look at them before I go home. I know Dan does, and it's going to be exciting. They're two good pitchers, but we have some other good young pitchers. Eduardo Rodriguez, the left-hander from Venezuela, has got a chance to be special. I can go right on down the list. Mike Wright. We've got some quality arms, and we also have 4 draft picks before the 100th pick this year in the June draft. And we've been very adamant about trying to hold those. So we should be able to get some good players in this June draft, continue the upward spiral of our farm system. And as far as Dylan and Gauze, they've been impressive down there. They have been impressive. And, you know, there's not this rookie hazing in our clubhouse. It's kind of they get a little bit, trust me, but, you know, the donuts and what have you. But it's you're wearing black and orange. Let's make your path a little easier. And you got a chance to help us. They don't look at it as somebody coming in and might take their job. It's like the guy gets on the first tee box and says, I want 3 strokes, I need a handicap. It don't work like that. The AL East doesn't work like that. You don't get 3 runs before they throw the first pitch. So, you know, these guys are going to earn their way, and when they do, they'll get the chance to pitch with us.
Maybe it's just me, but since when has given somebody 15 bags of donuts hazing?
I tell you, I'm still ticked off at the clubby. I didn't get any.
Didn't get any?
Not. Well, I think he's got some somewhere.
Gausman told me there was one they had the little 6-packs. There were probably some pictures on the internet. I don't know if anybody saw them. But the players did this very, very intricately, and they put these little 6-packs of the white donut gems, and they completely rimmed his locker, then filled it with the bigger bags. But Gausman had it all planned out because he counted the little 6-packs, and he had one for every day remaining in spring training. And then he came back about 2 days later, and he only had one for about every week. And I had nothing to do with it.
I think Tommy Hunter got in there.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Jeff Rubin of Fairfax, Virginia asks, Buck, can you tell us somebody in the farm system, coming up in the farm system, that you've seen that you think has a real chance to help the team this year?
This year? I could make a case for him. I love the way Jonathan Scope went after the Korean second baseman on a pivot the other day in a WBC game, and then broke up the double play at home plate on a 1-2, potential 3 double play. Not that we were watching. Jonathan's got a chance to be a good player. There's some you could, you know, I don't want to leave anybody out. I mean, Nick Delmonico's been impressive. You know, he's still a ways away, but he's what they look like. Brady, give me the other 15 that we sit there. You know, it's funny. Pardon? We sit there every spring. Last spring I said, all right, guys, let's give the real 10 top prospects. Not the Baseball America, all the other things. They go down, who signed the biggest bonus. Who do we think are our best 10 prospects? Then we pull it out this spring, and we did it again. And it's last year, there's a lot more argument this year, which means I think we got some more guys to pick from. So it's exciting for me to know that you'd like to be a self-sufficient organization, that you get everybody from within. You know, best hitting coaches, best trainers. That's what you'd like to be, and that's what we're striving to be.
Terry Sage from Perry Hall asks, when you look over the teams you've managed and the success you've had, particularly the second-year success we've talked about, the turnaround after the first full year, what are the similarities among those teams that the Orioles, in what ways are the Orioles similar to those teams and the turnarounds you engineered there?
I think the core players, the core players, when you look at, I asked this question in our staff meeting the other day, Brady was in, I said, well, who are our core players and how do you define a core player? We think all 25 are core players, you know, if they're putting on the uniform, but, you know, really the sixth tool, you know, you're talking about a 5-tool player, who has the sixth tool? And when you look at that group, that's the similarities, because they're all about the same age. They all have had their kind of nosebleed together. They, you know, let's face it, I picked their friends for them for 6, 7, 8 months. But these guys hang out in the off season. I see it because, what's that thing called? Whatever. They show pictures. And they're hanging out together and they're doing things in the off season. And it's pretty cool. You know, they like each other and they respect each other and they'll call BS on each other, which I really like.
Andy Brooks asked, why did the Orioles switch their dugout to the first base side? Memorial Stadium, we were on the third base side.
I remember that. My first game in the big leagues at third base coach was in Memorial Stadium. It smelled like an old high school gym. I remember walking in there and going, wow. And I remember the Orioles beat the hell out of us too, which was normal. I don't know. Oh, I'm glad it is.
Makes sense to me.
I know that Chris Davis is happy we got that dugout.
Bob Kessler of Bel Air wants to know, other than the usual baseball skills, what are the intangible things that you look for in a player?
I think the guys, when you get to that level, there's a certain amount of ability. Let's face it, these are the best players in the world. And you try to have some respect for that without sympathy. The two problems that I think coaches make is they forget about how tough the game was to play and how bad they were on a given night. And you try to, without being a sympathetic ear, I think wanting to be a good teammate. I really do. I think our guys, it means something to them to make the path easier. And I chuckle, Peter, when I hear a football coach say, and y'all have heard this, that the team just didn't seem ready to play this week. And I go, this week? This week? You know, is that after your off week? You know, is that after your 6-month off season? I mean, we play 7 days a week. We played 211 games last year, counting spring training. And we hope to play more this year, but there's a certain tool that if you can bring that sense of emotional steadfastness and just the mental toughness, it plays out in baseball more than any other sport. And it's something that, and how do you evaluate that? That's when you're around them 7 days a week, you can see it. And I got Brady to help me with it. I'll say this, one of the great assets we have is Brady. I mean, the things we kid about, the reason he was worried about the donuts, the reason he was worried about the donuts because he knows if Brady saw the donuts, he was in for it in a nice way. But Brady has helped so much with the culture of our clubhouse, from the strength and conditioning to the nutrition and just the expectations of what it takes. And he's an ear for the players because he was such a great player, but he's also can give them some real vision on what reality is and what it's not. And he keeps a lot of things off my plate. Thank you.
Mike Wheeler of Ellicott City says, if you just won that 211th game, just kidding.
Oh, I'm right there with you. It kept me up all year. And I do think the ball hit the foul pole, not that I'm forgetting.
Did you have any say in changing the warning track surface from a synthetic, bouncy surface to a more natural surface? And if so, what are your thoughts on that?
We all talked about it. There's nobody, you know, the players, when we first put it in, there was, I know the reasons behind it, there was some real, what do you call it, where the water comes up. Good, that's close enough. Drainage, you know, the water came up and we didn't want the whole field to have some problems with drainage if we had a rain delay, because you never hear a game being called off because the warning track's muddy. So they kind of got ahead of that, and I think we're at the point now, technology-wise, that we have the drainage and everything there. It's going to be a safer surface for our players. It's going to, I think, be a look, from what I understand, that's actually fits more with the natural retro look that our stadium has. I mean, I've been around. I'm definitely biased, but it's the best ballpark in the American League, and we enjoy coming there. Nicole Sherry and her crew do a great job. Our groundskeeper is due on opening day, pregnant. She is due on opening day. I have never had a groundskeeper pregnant. I can tell you that. I didn't mean that like it sounded. Let's go to the next question, Peter. I wonder what she's going to name the baby.
It's a good question.
Go ahead, please.
I was trying to come up with a witty answer,
I know,
but I'm
you
out.
don't know.
I'm done.
I'm going to regret that.
Here's a social media question from @Sam F. Biddle. That's a mouthful. On Twitter. What's your favorite restaurant in Baltimore?
Angela's Kitchen. She cooks all the time. I bet I've eaten out. I've probably eaten out here. I've eaten out here maybe 3-4 times tops. But there's no, Little Italy. I love the places down there. I've been down there a couple times. I get up, I go to the ballpark. Over there, we have great food at the ballpark, and I come home and go to bed, and it's Groundhog Day, and I like it.
Here's a question from Dean on our staff. What did you say to the players in the clubhouse immediately after Game 5
Oh,
in New York?
jeez, don't bring that up. That's a tough one. That's a tough one. And, you go through, you have the journey that we had together, and then all of a sudden, that's what kills you about the playoffs. It's over. You play, sometimes you live to fight another day, and there's another game, and to grasp the sense of urgency in the playoffs is very important for not only a manager and coaches, but for the players. And just to have all of a sudden it's over, to walk in that clubhouse is a real challenge for a manager, because you have so much respect for what they've accomplished and what they did, and the pressure to deliver the right words is, and there are no words. All you got to do, Peter, you were there, you look in their eyes, and they're hurting. They're hurting. And I think what I challenged them with, and I think Brady was there, is I said, I want everybody to step back and think about what you're feeling right now. Think about what you're feeling, really. Just reflect on it for a second and hold that feeling until next year. And I said, it's not over. I said, what I want you guys to do is have the mentality of to be continued. And they talked about, of course, Jonesy's our T-shirt aficionado, what do you call it?
Aficionado?
That good too. He's already got the T-shirt to be continued going, but he's got a few we don't let him wear out publicly. They're a little colorful.
Along those lines, being at spring training the last 3 weeks, probably talked to every player at some point to write a story or just to talk. And I don't know if I doubt you hand out talking points except when you except when you did my comment.
I wish I was that. No, I'm not that
But these
smart.
guys, to a man, rather than say what a great season we had last year, because you go up and you say, hey, it was a great season last year. Every one of them in some form said, we left a lot on the table there that we want to go and get. And I can't think of one player who unprompted hasn't said that at some point, at least once in the last couple of weeks.
Peter, it's a sincere team. There's not, I don't know if I'm just getting older and more in tune with that stuff, but I don't think I've ever had a group that really gets it. They get in the core, and that's why, Dan and I and everybody were we kicked a lot of tires on players, and we will continue all the way through the spring, but they know we're going to look from within until we start looking at everybody else's backyard. And I think our players have fed off that, because so many springs you hear guys saying are also, we should have signed that guy, we should have traded this guy. And it's like Adam Jones called me this offseason about, was it Upton with Arizona? Yeah, he was somewhere he'd run into him and said, Buck, I think this guy would be a great fit. We got to do this, and I love players engaged. I welcome that. I get that a lot. What do you think? What do you think it'd take? Talk to Dan maybe, because he's really saying he wants to come. And I said, well, Adam, we've done that. We've talked to them about trading for him. And he goes, great. And I said, the problem is it's for you. He goes, I don't like him that much. I said, so with everything comes a price. We can. You can go get everybody, but I don't. You could. So I try to keep that in mind. I like our guys. I don't want them to hear me talking, coveting other people's players. I like our guys. I want to make them as good as I can, and create the right atmosphere for them to be that.
Hypothetical situation sent us on Facebook.
Who's pitching this year in Boston in the 18th inning?
We'll get to that. No, save situation, bottom of the 9th inning, in a rare circumstance where Jim Johnson is unavailable. Would you like Joe Flacco's arm in the bullpen?
Only, and Wieters as a tight end. The other day I was watching Wieters trot around the bases, which he's done a few times down in Sarasota. I said, John Russell says, man, well, this guy been a great tight end. I said, he don't run well enough. But Flacco, as long as the target wasn't moving, and we had Phelps was down there with us doing that golf where they try to make him over.
Haney project.
Something like that.
Hank
And
Haney.
of course, Wayne Kirby asked me if he ever peed in the Olympic pool while he was down there. I think he thinks we're nuts. He'll never come back to our camp again.
If Charles Barkley didn't send Hank Haney screaming
With that
screaming into the wilderness,
That was bad.
nobody will.
Yeah.
Matt Frankie from Baltimore wants to know, and I know the answer to this, I believe, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Which team do you enjoy beating the most?
All of them. They all count the same, Peter. But I tell you what, we got our there's been a lot of people rubbing our noses in it, so it's not like that's over. They did it for a long time. So I think that was one thing you got here when I got here is that don't give them too much credit. Take it to them. And I don't think I should answer that. I think you got it. That's all of them. Tampa, Boston, Toronto's going to be a challenge this year, but we got to worry about ourselves. We put the 4 clubs up on the board in spring training and said, listen, all this other peripheral stuff, we got to figure out a way to be better than these 4 teams. You look at your position, you're the right fielder, you got to be better than their right fielder. And simple as that. Just simplify the thing.
Surprised to see you wearing a pinstripe suit.
Well, this is actually a chalk stripe. I don't even know. My wife picked it out. It's her fault.
Is that your
She did that. I was coming out here, and I guess you got to put these collar things in, and there was no. I didn't have any, obviously. So she came in. She put.
Didn't have any collar stays?
No, she put toothpicks in them. Well, Peter, if anybody's got something, if somebody's got something in their teeth, I got a toothpick right here.
Martha Stewart has nothing on you. Brent B. from Ellicott City asked, Buck, congratulations on the award. Can you please tell me why we only wear our black jerseys on Fridays?
Same reason why we only wear our black jerseys, our orange jerseys on Saturday, and our white jerseys on Sunday, and our gray jerseys on the road, and our black jerseys on the road on Friday. But see, she knows, was it she? He.
He.
But he knows what nights we wear them on because we wear them on those nights. You know what? Peter, I'm trying to figure a way to win a game. What we're wearing, I could care less. I don't wear the jersey anyway, except for picture day.
Marcia Choich writes, which game last year were you most surprised that you won?
Well, actually none of them, but none of them surprised me. Sometimes, like the game in Boston where Chris pitched, it was at some point.
I knew that was going to happen.
Yeah. No, it's a diminishing return as far as sometimes you got to live to fight another day. It doesn't mean you give the game away, but in order to be competitive in your next 5 games, you may have to take a back. May not be able to throw your best guy who's pitched 3 days in a row that night. So we had exhausted everybody there. That game, you'd gotten to the point where it was, this game might need to get over because it's going to hurt us physically in the bullpen and with our players playing this many games, this many innings in a day game that early in the season. So that game, but those guys refused to give in. I think the best thing about that game is I looked over in our bench, and in Fenway, it's not really a good idea, that dugout, but we had every guy that had pitched in the game from the bullpen was in the dugout, and it was cold. And I looked over there and said, we got a chance to be pretty good this year. Chris, I made sure I waited till the last second to tell him he was going to warm up so he didn't have time to lockjaw on me. But he was. Now they're all the talk down in spring training who's going to pitch this year if it happens.
And you've indicated that it's going to be someone other than Chris.
Well, don't hold me to that. If Chris is DH in that game, it still might be him. That's what's tough. I went out to the umpire, and the umpire said, here's what we got. I said, my DH is coming in to pitch. He says, well, you lose your DH as a hitter. I said, no, my DH is going to pitch. Therefore, I don't lose his ability to hit. He goes, no, you lose the DH when you put him in to pitch. So I'm sitting there, guys, I think it was second-year umpire, I'm not going to mention his name. I just said, listen, you're going to screw this up. Go out to the other 3 umpires and make sure you don't embarrass yourself, because trust me, the DH can now hit even though he's pitching. Buck, I don't think so. So he goes and talks to him. He looks over in the dugout and goes, got it. It was not going to be good. I wasn't real sure about it, but I was talking like I really knew what I was talking about. The whole key, you know, all else fails, act like you know what you're talking about. Because they don't know, I know. So sometimes, you know.
Power of suggestion.
Exactly.
Buck, got a couple more questions.
Okay.
We've gone, the clock has almost run out on us. Actually, it has run out on us. But there's no time clock in baseball.
Exactly.
That's the beauty
Well,
of it.
we have one. We have a water polo clock now.
Do you?
Yeah, down in spring training, our water polo clock. That we time the guys throwing the ball around.
Missed that one.
Thank God.
I hope Ed Encina is paying attention.
He is. Ed's all in our business.
Buck, what sets, in your mind, your coaching staff apart from other coaching staffs? And a second part of the question is, do you consider yourself a player's coach?
I don't know. What does that mean, Peter? Player's coach. I mean, is it sympathetic ear to BS? I don't know. I don't know. You know, thank God I had a father in my life that had the guts to be my father, not my buddy. You know what I mean? You know, it's about, if leadership basically is defining reality, and if I constantly have to define it, and it's not coming from the players to each other, I mean, I'm a ship passing tonight. You know, at some point they're going to say, who's the next guy coming in here, and I got it. So, you know, while you're here, you define reality, and sometimes you step on some toes through that, and you also have to have somebody in your life to define reality. Unfortunately, it was my mom and dad, and now it's my wife will define it some nights when I come home, you know, a little testy, but they don't, our coaching staff is, they care, and they don't have an agenda, and they have a pure heart. Players know when, you know, I have a problem with coaches who, after a guy goes 4 for 4, he's doing an interview about how he changed his grip and this, and then the guy goes 0 for 4 the next day, you can't find that guy. Or the pitching coach that says, you know, we changed his grip, we did all this, and that's why he pitched a shutout tonight. Next time when he can't get out of the first inning, you can't find the guy. You know, and you want to blend in I think the players realize that they're sincere. The only thing they want to do is try to make them better and give them what they need. It's not you know, we have guys from Dominican, we have guys from, I mean, it's a multi-rounded group, and, you know, Brady keeps it all together.
Along those lines, last question. This is from Tracy Lucido of Ellicott City. Congratulations to Buck and Angela, the 30th anniversary, and Dan for the great job he's done along with you, Buck, on this ball club. He says, it's great to see Brady here and involved. Do you foresee utilizing additional past Orioles in the organization in the future?
I think to a good extent we have. You know, Al Bumbury's in camp with us this year. Dan's going to have him doing some things through our system. Chris Hoyles is in camp with us. B.J. Surhoff's in camp with us. Scotty McGregor's in camp with us and is an integral part of our rehab program. I'm probably missing 10, of course Mike Bordick has gone to the dark side, but he's okay. No, Mike helps us when we're on the road. He goes through our minor league system, and he's been instrumental with guys like Machado and Scope and some of our young players. Who else we got scattered around, Dan? Am I missing anybody? I think we got them. But you know, we're actually having Greg Olson come in next week. Called me, and Dan's been talking to him. Would really like to put his foot in the water in spring for a while and see if he'd like to help us in some way. And Ole, he loves the Orioles. He'd very much like to get back here and see if he can help impact us. So we'll take a look and see if it works for him.
Ladies and gentlemen, 2012 Marylander of the Year, Buck Showalter.
Thank you, and congratulations again, Buck. Thank you, Peter and Buck, for coming up from Florida to join us tonight and share your insights. I want to thank Don Fry and the GBC for partnering with us on the event tonight. I want to thank everyone for coming and joining us tonight here at Sun headquarters. I hope you enjoyed yourself. Keep your eyes open for more Sun-sponsored events coming this way throughout the year. And final thoughts for the night, let's buckle up and go Orioles. Have a good evening.